This is the Classic Man Podcast. I'm Coach Carter.
And I'm Alex Martinez.
So glad to be with you guys today, talking about things that allows us as men to be healthier versions of ourselves, which in turn makes the world a better place.
Yes, sir. It certainly does. Excuse me. We need better men. I feel like we are not raising our children to a standard that we were held to as kids now. You know what I'm saying?
For sure. I feel like there's been a lot of changes both in parenting styles, and some of that comes from us wanting to do certain things different, but we end up taking it to a whole different extreme or just not being present at all.
Man, it certainly does. I feel like especially us coming from the Army, we look at things a lot differently than general public does because we had to reform our own brain, restructure it. Well, they helped us restructure it. Bringing in discipline and many different things. So yeah, definitely, man. Big things are different.
And a huge part of that as well has been the way the economy has changed, or social economics, if you will, because when you have a 2-parent household and one parent is at home, you at least have accountability of what's going on with your kids. But nowadays, the need for both parents to work really throws off the balance of the home.
It really does, man. I can't even imagine when my late wife passed away. Before that, I was toxic. And so I would think, man, if I ever had to do this on my own, I don't know if I'd be able to do it because I knew myself.
Right.
And that's a tough thing to do, when you're in that position of not knowing, hey, can this fully work? And can I do this on my own in the toxic state I'm in?
Whew.
Yeah,
no, that's really good. And that's actually going to tie into a bit of what we're talking about today. But the biggest question I have for you today is, if you were to describe yourself, would the people who know you best feel like you described yourself well? Would they describe you the same way that you describe yourself?
Welcome to the Classic Man Podcast. I'm Justin Kashmirchik, also known as the Jump Cut King. And before we dive into today's episode, a quick word. First off, if this is your first time tuning in, hit the subscribe button, tap the bell, and drop a link. And if any of this resonates with you, support it. It costs nothing and means everything. You can catch Classic Man on all major podcast platforms, so head over to classicmanpodcast.com after the show for guest info, all the links, bonus content, and maybe support the team. Buy him a cup of coffee. Secondly, beyond being a friend and brother to these guys featured on this podcast, I also launched a business that might just change the way you think about web design. It's called the EGT Universe, and you can find out all about it at egtuniverse.com. And to get on the ground floor when we launch the public service, you can join the newsletter and get in on a whole new way to build your brand online. No more Squarespace, no more WordPress, just a sleek, high-end luxury web experience without the price tag of a Fortune 500. And if you or someone you know is launching something or operates a brand, a nonprofit, a business, and they need a digital facelift, my marketing company can help them. We've already started serving startups, creatives, and even big organizations. It's a real impact. Go to egtuniverse.com and drop me a line. But for now, turn it up, tune in, really focus. Let's get into today's content.
I would hope so. I would hope so. Nowadays, nowadays, I think if you were to describe me, I think it would be generally correct. But if I were to have met you 2 years ago, more than that, I guess about 5 years ago, you'd be like, no, what you explain who you are today and who you was then, I don't believe that,
I feel
not
that.
At all.
Yeah, it's crazy how COVID also threw off our perception of time in our brains. Like there are years just deleted to me because of COVID. I'm like, yeah, that was a year or two ago. Nah, that was 6 years ago.
That was 6 years ago.
Happened. Yo, COVID's 5. So if something happened right before COVID, in my brain, 2021, 2022, I'm like, no, that was like a few months ago. That was 5-6 months ago. Because I don't have those experiences or memories in the middle. All we have is, right?
Just stuck in the house.
Thanks. So within that, a lot of us, we all have a friend that does not describe themselves the way they really are. They don't see themselves the way the rest of the world sees them.
Right.
And then that causes differences or issues between what you expect them to be able to do and what they think that they're going to do. And they don't realize that those are two different things.
For real. You know, I was talking to my wife the other day. She was speaking about a time when she had to care for her mother. And it was a time when she was not in the best state of mind either. And her mom was ill and in a hospice situation.
Yeah.
And so she was talking about how she felt bad, like she didn't do enough at the time. And I had to elaborate to her, you know, with what you were going through and what you had and what you knew at the time, you did the best of what you could.
Yeah.
And that's hard for people to understand that sometimes, that, hey, with where I was at in life, with the coping skills I had and the mental health I had, this was the best I could do. And realizing now they realize they could do better. But at the time they get that, you know, guilty conscience now of like, hey man, I don't know if I did everything right then. But they're not giving themselves the credit that, hey, you've grown
for sure
from then.
Yeah, and hindsight is 20/20.
Always.
Right? So when we look back, it's so much easier to say, I wish I could have done this, or this would have been the best way. But in those moments, you do have to learn how to trust your decision making, trust your experiences, trust your instincts, and say, hey, no, something's not right about the way this person makes me feel. Like something's throwing me off. Maybe I should, you know, maybe I shouldn't text that guy. Maybe I know this guy is bad for me, right? Women. And you follow through and talking to him anyways, knowing good and well something's off or something's wrong. Or you pass up on somebody who was good for you because they're not in the same toxic cycles that you're used to, and your body's so used to that toxicity.
Change, man.
That you don't know how to handle a healthy relationship, man. I've had that happen. I've been on the other end of that where I'm like, man, no, I'm okay. Like, I'm just safe right now. It's all good to feel safe, but safe started to feel bad. It felt wrong. It felt odd.
That's not good.
No, it's not good, right? Because that's what we're looking for. And then you finally get it, or you finally found it, and then something's off, or you start to believe that something's going too well.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, man, all right, when is life going to hit me? When is some crap going to happen to throw me back off, you know?
And, you know, the hard part I think, for me sometimes is understanding is that discernment, you know?
Yeah.
Or am I just picking up vibes, or what is that? Because, you know, sometimes we all have that spirit of discernment, but how connected are we to that discernment?
Yeah, that's for sure.
And that's a big thing in life, you know, because there's a lot of times where I knew my gut, I had this discernment, and I went against it.
Facts.
And I'm like, oh man, this was not good. I should have listened to myself.
Right. And the farther you get from God, the farther off that's going to be. Or the more okay with going against that you're going to be.
Yeah.
Because you don't have that center, that grounding, pulling you back in, drawing you to do the right thing. I mean, I've had somebody even recently who she kind of talked about that, where she would have friends or people in her life trying to push her towards what she felt, you know, they thought was right. So it wasn't that they thought it was wrong. She just kind of wanted to do what she wanted to do. And that's okay to want to do what you want to do. Like, you are allowed to make your own decisions in life.
Yes, sir.
Now, also understand that you have to deal with the repercussions of whatever decisions you make in life. So you can't make terrible decisions and then be salty when your life is messed up.
Well, sure. I mean, we all learned in, was it 5th grade, Newton's Law, you know?
Right.
And I don't know if it's the first, second, or third one, but I know, I still remember that every action has an equal and opposite reaction coming.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
So you think you can do all of these negative things, or you think you can talk to people any type of way, or some people don't realize how selfish they are.
Yeah.
I think that's a really big one. And then some people also don't realize how prideful they are.
Oh, pride will kill.
Whew,
It'll kill a man quick.
It will. And so, I saw this stat recently. I think you'll find this interesting, right? It was a YouTube video on where do you stack up compared to the average man? And here's what's interesting in the survey. 80% of people thought they were above average.
Oh, I bet you they did.
Well, then who's average or below?
Right. No. How do we even figure that out?
Exactly, right? So if 80% of us, that's impossible to be above average, because that's just not how the statistic works.
Right.
So he went through and he said, okay, the average man in America is this tall. The average man in America weighs this much. The average man in America has this IQ score, scores this on his test.
You know, that's kind of odd. because you can't really, I don't know if you can really average America because we're the unhealthiest country in the world. So the average American is obese.
For sure.
You know?
That was part of the numbers. You saw that in the numbers. So then he took not just weight and height, he also did average lifts per what was reported.
Okay.
Right? Now, those numbers were actually about what I expected them. If I said, hey, I'm going to take somebody off the street in America, put them in the gym, what do I think they can lift? They were slightly higher than that, but they were nowhere close to the numbers that somebody who goes to the gym would hit. So that makes me feel like that was a pretty accurate number. It wasn't inflated like I thought it would be. So that shows me that the data was pulled from somewhere that was legit versus self-reporting, where those numbers would be off because you're going to inflate. You have so many people, especially in college, man. You got people who, man, I used to lift this in high school. Man, I'm strong. I can bench 225. That was nothing. I used to bench 225, in sets of 8. Man, that was a decade ago.
That was a decade ago, and I've realized that real fast retiring and after my injuries, man.
Yeah.
I'm like, 09 on my tours, I was hitting 305.
Right.
Not today. I go to the gym.
It's a different world.
My shoulder I've torn and messed up.
Yeah.
I get on a 25-pound dumbbell and I'm like hitting the wrong side. And I'm like, God, this is awful.
Man, even with as much as I can lift in a max, I can't rep those the same now because the Army gave me tennis elbow, lateral epicondylitis, which messes with the elbow, but also goes down to the wrist. I have an impingement on my shoulder that's been there. But that rucking, I fractured my vertebrae in my back, L3. Rucking, every time I go anywhere past, I'm talking about that 6-7 mile mark, my back feels the way it felt like when I fractured it.
Oh, that's awful.
And then I still got to get through mile 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. But about somewhere between 12 and 13, I don't feel it anymore. It goes away. But from about 6, 7-ish to 12, 13-ish, my back feels the way it felt when I originally fractured it.
That burning sensation you get.
Yeah, it's like on fire and it like locks up and I'm sitting here and my pace is like, and I'm sitting here like, I got to keep up. I'm not dropping out. I'm already short. You know what I mean? So I'm not dropping out. Right, we got to start at the beginning of the formation, right? And that's how I knew I had a stress fracture in my foot, actually. Was because I had never fallen back in a ruck.
Well, yeah, who wants to go to sick call and be the one, look at this guy, you fell out.
Exactly, yeah. So I'm going, my foot, man, was just gone. Like it wasn't even hurting. It just wasn't even there.
Yeah.
But I still wasn't able to move at the same pace. So it wasn't hurting me. It just wasn't producing the same.
Right.
Man, I'm all the way at the back. You know what I mean? They're trying to average out the pace, slow down, spread us out a little bit more. I got good vision so I can tell where my people are. But man, they did everything they could to get me through it because they knew something was wrong with me because I was always at the front every other time.
Yeah.
So there's a difference between in life, right? When people know who you are and they know that you're going to show up and they have certain expectations for you. When you don't hit those expectations, they're not looking down on you. They're understanding that something is wrong.
Yeah.
If you're always honest with people and then for some reason they catch you in a lie, they know that there's a reason why you're lying, whether you're protecting somebody, whether you're afraid of something happening. Like they understand that there's a different consequence at play or at work here. That doesn't mean go around lying. That's not what I'm saying. But when people know who you are, they're more willing to work with you when you have issues or problems because they know that's not who you are as a person or your norm.
Facts. Yeah. You get around a person that's cried wolf so many times.
Yeah.
And now they're telling the truth. How do you decipher that?
Exactly.
How am I supposed to tell, man? Because all the database says that you've been consistently lying.
Exactly.
And now the one time I'm going to have to dig deeper because you're crying that you told the truth, but it's hard for us to tell that because we've gotten to this point now.
Yeah, especially working with students. I feel like we see that a lot where if you're constantly the one causing problems and then all of a sudden you want to claim that somebody else is causing problems towards you, it's kind of hard to see that. It's kind of hard to take that at face value because all you've done is cause problems. And that doesn't mean that nobody else will ever cause a problem for you either.
Right.
But we're also not going to give you the same sensitivity sometimes because it's like you can't dish something you can't take.
Right. If we're in basic and you got a squad that's doing great, but then you got a soup sandwich in there, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he's consistently dragging everybody down.
Yeah.
We know it's not the team.
Right.
We know it's this guy now. At that point, are we going to be a chapter 8 or are we going to recycle him?
Yeah.
You know, because that's them are the things that we look at as far as, hey, you know, everybody else is putting in their work and they're trying to pull you up.
Right.
But what are you doing?
Yeah.
You know, and that's tough.
That's
tough because we don't want to give up on a soldier. We don't want to give up on somebody. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, if I take one guy away, I'm not just taking one guy away.
Right.
I'm going to take two guys away now.
Yeah. And you got to figure out what your strengths are, because knowing your strengths and your value allows you to put yourself in the best position for others to see your value. Right. And so I didn't realize so many people had issues with their resumes. Right. Because I've always had a solid resume.
Yeah.
So I didn't understand that other people struggle with that the same way, because resumes were easy for me.
Yeah.
So I knew how to present myself in a resume to highlight certain skills or things that I wanted to show you.
Right.
And then, sitting with somebody and working on her resume. And I'm like, man, like there's so much more to you than what you're presenting right now. Like your resume and your interview is your opportunity to show yourself in the best light. It's your first date.
Yeah. I don't know if you've ever seen the statistics on resumes, but there's a high percentage of resumes that are just falsified.
Wow.
Yeah,
actually
it
didn't
came
know
up in a
that.
study, and there's a lot of people that never update their resume for a while, and so in the younger times they may be like, oh, well, it's been a long time, but when I was there, I did this, and they might have been not involved in a training,
Right.
but remember the training. And was like, oh, yeah, we had that training. And then they list it on their resume, and it's false.
Right.
But there's a high percentage of Americans that it came out that they do that.
That's crazy.
Unknowingly, yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I try to update mine ASAP, but then I also mention what expired. So, like, my CPR right now is not current, but I put the time that I had it. You can still see that I did it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it ends here. And so if I need to go get my CPR, I can. And you saw that I had the ability to get it or had it before. But I don't lie and say that it's current.
Right.
If it's not current, you know what I mean? So those are avenues and aspects of where, as we get better with understanding our value, then we can present that value better for other people. But here's what I find interesting, right? With Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? That's a triangle that shows what you need as a person to be and feel successful in life, right? So you have different tiers within Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and you can't get to the next tier without being fulfilled in that tier below it.
Yeah.
Right? So that very first tier are physiological needs. So do you have water? If you are dying of dehydration, nothing else matters.
Nothing else.
Because you're about to die.
You got about 3 days
Same
max.
with hunger, right?
Yeah.
So if you're starving all the time, I know a lot of y'all get hangry, right? If you're starving and dehydrated and you have nowhere to lay your head that night, it doesn't matter who's around. Like, you're going to deal with the absence and the void of everything else being missing. But just because, okay, I don't have a person to make sure I'm eating, you know, I don't have a partner to share my financial issues with, stuff like that. So those things kind of compound. But yeah, without food, without water, without shelter, and those physiological needs, it doesn't matter what else you do or don't have, because y'all are just struggling, about to die together.
Exactly. You really are. You know, that's some of the main things. You got, 3 days? You got 3 days for water. You maybe can get a week with food, maybe.
In America, what you got on you already, see, and that's the thing, right? What your body holds on to, that's fat, right? And that fat is energy to be used. So I'm not sure that original study still stands for Americans right now.
Man, I'm serious. You ever seen that little side note on that? But there's a reel from that doctor that like treats overweight patients.
No, I haven't seen that.
And I had to laugh. And I mean, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to make fun of anybody, but she was like, well, I got to go to the fridge. And he's like, you don't have to go to the fridge for nothing. Like, you're not hungry. I promise you, you're not going to melt away.
I guarantee you that you're not. And no, like, and we're not trying to pick on anybody, but the truth of the matter is, right, that's a part of knowing yourself. If you know that you can't, I talk to my mother all the time, and my mother will tell you, okay, she says, I know what to do. I have the information in my brain. She's a nurse, right? I understand what I have to do.
Right.
I don't have the discipline to do it.
Discipline's hard if you ain't got it.
So I pay a trainer to put their foot in my butt.
Yeah.
And then I lose weight. And then I stop paying for training, and I go back to the cookies and the chips. And it's cookies and chips every time. Right? And she's like, and I'm going to sneak a few pops in there. Right? But she can tell you it's not ice cream for her. It's not cake. It's not fat. So some people eat a ton of cheese and they don't realize how much sodium and fat they're adding to their diet. Like, oh, well, I don't eat sweets. But you got ranch.
You got all that protein. Are you working out with all that protein you putting in you?
Exactly. Because protein ain't doing you nothing if you're not working out.
Right.
You know, it's just more calories. And calories are, at the end of the day, gonna stick to your body. But yeah, so on the flip side, I can't go 4 or 5 days without food. Like once I hit the 24 hours mark without food, because I don't have a lot of fat on my body, I have no storages. I have no, you know what I mean? Reserves. Yeah, exactly. So I turn into a different person so quick in terms of mood, disposition, how I respond to people.
Yeah.
Like now, if I have a mission, if I have a goal, I can hyper focus on that. But in terms of everyday life, like I know that honestly, even at 12 hours without food, I'm snapping at people. I'm rude. I'm mean. I'm harsh. And it's beyond. It's where like my body starts to literally eat itself because I don't have anything to pull from.
Hey, it's just me again, and we'll get back to that content in under 10 seconds. But real quick, podcasts like this don't grow unless you help. Hit the subscribe button, smash the like, and if you've already subscribed, thank you. Take a second right now and text this to 3 people you know. You never know who needs to hear what's coming next.
Yeah, you slip into what's the word called when you're ketosis?
Yeah.
Ketosis starts slipping into ketosis. It makes you sick, man.
It does actually.
It'll make you real quick for some people.
And I did have the keto flu once, unintentionally. Like I wasn't even doing keto. It was just the fact that, what I had to eat versus how much time I hadn't eaten.
Right.
And just all the effort I was putting into the things I had going on at that time, man. I was throwing up. You know, I was in the bathroom both ways and just on the floor, zero energy. Like I flipped in a matter of minutes though. Like I was fine. And then I was like, death. I'm on my way out. It's cool. Like peace out, y'all. But but it just was what it was at that point. I'm like, I'll see y'all on the other side because I'm done dealing with this.
Yeah, you feel awful, man.
Yeah. But let's talk about that second. So above food, shelter, and water.
So in that we have, you know, when you're feeling that way, no war. You know, you're not in a criminal area that's got high crime.
Right.
You got financial stability, which makes people feel safe. And them things in conjunction, you know, that's what's going to provide that safety that a person really needs to feel.
Yeah.
You know, if we don't have our finances, of course you're going to be stressed out.
That's a big one.
And the worst thing about America right now is that, I don't know if the statistics are still the same, but 50% of marriages are going down the drain because of finances.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a lot.
That's such a huge one. And we're going to talk about marriage and relationships in upcoming episodes. And I really look forward to digging into those topics because of all of the toxic influencers who tell you how to treat women, even though you shouldn't be treating women that way. And that doesn't make you masculine. So I really want to throw that out there. It does not make you masculine to have 10 to 15 different women that you're talking to, right? Using them just for hookups, stuff like that. And here's what I had to understand, right? And this is on that topic of feeling like you're better than average, right? I feel like I am on the above average side on discipline. Now, I feel like as a soldier, you kind of have to feel that way.
I mean,
right?
I think we're awful blessed and lucky. And I think we do have a lot of discipline from the, you know, going through basic training in AIT.
Yeah.
It's forced.
It really is. Like when you sit there and stand at attention for an hour and don't move, you tell yourself what you can do.
Yeah.
And same with running. Like I had to get to that point with running. There is a psychological effect of going running. And what happens is you create mental toughness because you're overcoming barriers that you had in your brain for yourself. And so we have that same thing when it comes to missions, when it comes to things that we're getting done. As we accomplish those things, you feel better about yourself and you learn your limits. So within that, though, the average person just doesn't have that many critical missions.
Yeah.
That's not to knock on anybody, but at the end of the day, when you have tasks and objectives that have to be completed, and or the option is for your livelihood,
Yeah.
right, to
Big one there.
go down the drain, or well, there's even stateside getting smoked, extra duty, no pay, reduction in rank.
Oh, man.
All of those things, right?
Awful. Who wants to lose their pay?
Exactly, right? And that's the thing about it. You are on contract. So this is, and I was talking to a close family member of mine, and she was talking to another family member of hers, and I happened to be present. So I jumped in on the conversation, and this is probably the greatest piece of self-awareness I've ever heard from somebody, right? She joined the Navy as soon as she finished high school.
Okay.
Right? So we're talking about resumes, we're talking about life, we're talking about jobs and things like that. And she said, as I started giving advice, she said, hold on. This is what I've never noticed about myself. I have never had to wonder where my next paycheck was coming from.
Yeah.
I know I'm getting paid. 2 days out of the month, no matter what happened, right? You got people currently right now sitting, waiting to be kicked out of the Army.
Stop loss.
Sitting in a room, right?
Yeah.
Doing area beautification from day to day. Getting paid.
Getting paid. Now, clarify this real quick.
Right.
'Cause when you go on stop loss, all right, you're gonna go without a paycheck for a little bit, but you're gonna get that back pay.
Yeah.
So I've had a lot of buddies that
Yeah.
were very upset because we were on a tour and some of them were supposed to be ETSing,
Gotcha.
and that didn't happen. You know, and because they were supposed to be ETSing but still cross seas, you're stop loss, and you know you're gonna continue to work.
Yep.
And we're going to have to get your pay refigured out.
Yep.
But for these few weeks, there's no
nothing
pay,
coming
man,
in.
and there ain't nothing you can do.
Yeah.
But it'll get fixed eventually.
That's
so
for
there,
sure.
So there is times that, you know, although we are still getting paid, we are working and not getting paid. And it's really
Right.
frustrating for a soldier. You know, and a lot of people in America, they don't even know that happens.
Right. So the thing is, you have so many people in the Army, in all of the armed forces, that there are going to be issues and mistakes that happen.
Yep.
Right. So there's times where things are going to be screwed up, but with good leadership, they're always going to try to take care of those situations and what's going on.
Yeah.
So I have yet to see a good soldier actually get screwed over all the way through the end. There might be points along the way where they got screwed over, but somebody somewhere said, hold on, something about this doesn't sound right, doesn't look right. Or one of my guys, he wasn't getting BAH, and it was getting to the point where his family back home was going to have financial problems because they needed that money,
Right.
you know, while he was in training, and his wife was supposed to be, you know, back there with the kid and stuff like that. So it took them maybe 3 months to figure it out. But he went down to, I forgot the office for if you're having financial issues.
Should be like S2.
No, there's a program, a separate program.
okay.
That they will send you down to, at least at Fort Leonard Wood there is.
Okay.
And so once you go down there, they'll give you like grants or loans or different things and situations to help prop you up financially until the Army itself is able to figure out whatever the issue is. And then if it's a grant, you keep it. If it was a loan, you pay it back with that back pay that they give you.
Right.
So they were able to take care of him, and they made sure him and his family were good. But that was the extent that they were willing to go to. Like, hey, go ahead, go down to this office. And then a whole separate organization made sure he was good.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, his family didn't get evicted.
And you know,
That's the point it got to.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I can really say that I was very proud of the Army is my whole career. They were very family oriented.
Yeah.
You know, so if any time I told my squad leader, you know, hey, I have an issue back home, it was immediately addressed. You know, there was no playing around on it.
Facts. And even if you have people that you don't get along with, you have people in your real life that you don't get along with in your family.
Right.
So there are always going to be those people. But at the end of the day, the vast majority want to make sure you get taken care of.
Yeah, they're going to
back
square you
home.
away.
Yeah. But that is a luxury that we have. And that was one thing that she had to point out in that conversation. Hey, like, my point of view and my point of reference is always going to be a little bit different because I actually don't have, it's crazy to say real world experience because that's probably some of the most real world experience.
You're going to get.
Right? But she doesn't have civilian day-to-day life experience because there's just aspects of life that she's never had to deal with in almost a decade in the service, but that's all she's ever done. Whereas I started off with life first and I look back and I'm like, man, okay, rank wise, I would be so much farther if I had joined the Army 5 years sooner.
Yeah.
But there are elements where I'm still shown respect and I'm still treated a certain way because they know that I have those life experiences. And they're like, okay, what things are you able to bring in to help our soldiers, whether it's mentally, like I work with the chaplains a lot.
Okay.
And they're like, okay, yeah, it's technically not within Army doctrine for you to be able to, whether it's interact as much or kind of be like as given as much input or influence as you do.
Right.
However, this is what you've done for 12 years.
Yeah.
So,
Right. We can't tell you it's,
Yeah.
you're wrong.
Exactly. So in those types of instances, I maybe do get a little bit more respect. I often feel like Joseph in the Bible, and that's gonna be a whole episode, so I don't want to go into that right now. Comparing, just finding somebody that you identify with, from whether it's the Bible or for people who are not Christian, whatever form of literature you have, because whether you are at that place yet or whether that's where you aspire to be, it gives you an outline or a path that helps other people understand where you are mentally and how and why you function a certain way.
Yeah. That's a big thing, dude.
Yeah.
Because, God, talking about the Bible, I could look at myself and be like, man, there's several characters and not even characters, there's several people in there that I can align myself with, and that's kind of a big thing sometimes, especially in America these days,
Yeah.
And the one thing that really happens in men nowadays is when they are at fault for something, it's hard for them not to feel the shame.
Oof.
And that's one thing that I've really had to learn is the guilt and the shame, and I've had to look up to guys like David, who's done awful things, in their lives, but God still used them to where they didn't feel that shame, although at one point they were feeling shame.
Right.
And that's hard on a man nowadays.
It really is.
Because, you can have a blessing. You can have a testimony that can empower tons of people, change the way they think, the way they speak, all because of your testimony. But because of shame, you will not share your testimony.
Right.
And that's huge, man, especially for men.
It really is.
We need to empower other men instead of leaving them in the toxicity world.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing about it. So we might as well go down this road since we're here, right? You take a person who is described as being a man after God's own heart. And he has tons of sin issues. He has tons of things, right, that we would look at and say, religious or not, these were not good decisions.
Yeah.
Right? You screwed over some of the people who were closest to you.
Man, down to plotting a murder for a woman.
Over again, man. So, I mean, you think you getting set up, and that's funny because there's a lot of video songs, and it happens in real life. You get set up.
Yeah.
Interacting with women that you probably shouldn't be, or for whatever reason. Yeah, that's the OG setup was King David sending somebody right with his own execution letter in hand to the next in command.
Yeah.
While somebody is banging your wife and got her pregnant.
Man, dude.
Like, yeah. So I mean, that's one clear example. You got a few more from him, and then you got the wisest man to ever live, Solomon. And with Solomon, at the end of the day, he still had his heart turned away from God. I mean, you had somebody who literally was the first and only to walk and see face to face with God and Moses, and he wasn't even allowed to enter the promised land.
Man.
Like, so he lived his life in servitude and attempted to do the things the right way, but he still had issue after issue and mistake after mistake. He even murdered somebody himself. So we look at these people and it's like, okay, somebody who talked to God, somebody who was after God's own heart, was a king, could do whatever he wanted, somebody else who was the wisest person to ever live. If they all made mistakes and had problems, then how in the world are we supposed to get through and not have problems?
Yeah.
And people think that Christianity and religion is all about taking care of being as good as you can, right? Let me be the best person I can be. Let me do everything perfect. And if I don't do things perfect, then God's going to be upset with me.
Well, they're missing one thing. They're missing that it's got to be that personal, relationship.
Exactly.
God wants that intimate relationship with us
Exactly.
on our heart.
Yeah.
And when we can't do that, we'll end up where David was, where he tells Bathsheba, like, I don't need to go worship God today.
Right. What does that even mean? Yeah. But that's what I was talking to one of our soldiers about this week, right after chapel. He started asking me a few questions. He's not Christian. Right,
Okay.
so he practices the Islam faith, and he's like, yeah, so in ours, he's like, I like that with Christianity. There's so much forgiveness, there's so much good. You talk about God and everything he wants to do for you, but then there's so much like punishment, and this is bad, and you're doing the wrong things. And I'm like, I hear you. There has to be a happy medium.
Yeah.
There's a big divide in the church right now because so many people refuse to talk about the fact that we do things that you have no business doing.
Exactly.
Right? We don't want to attack sin. We don't want to hold people to a certain level of accountability. And as soon as you do, we fear that they're going to leave the church. When really, as men, that accountability, that structure, that standard that we have to hold each other to,
Yes, sir.
is essential.
It's very essential because, and I've had times where I've heard the word, someone's given the word, and they are beginning to speak on someone's personal life in a negative manner and share their gossip or their what's going on in their personal lives with the whole congregation.
That's wild.
And it stepped me back for a second, and I was like, man, where's the accountability in this church?
Right.
I understand, you're a man of God, and I understand, you're in the position to run this church.
Yeah.
But at the same time, just like we've learned in the military, you got to lead by example, because that's how we lead is how our squad, our group, our church is gonna do too.
Yeah.
And that was hard for me to hear, because I'm like, man, where's the accountability at?
Right.
That's not healthy. That's not a good moral thing to do to one of your sheep.
Especially if you have a relationship with them.
Yes.
Right. So you don't do that to people that you care about.
Or counseling in that matter.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
trying to counsel them.
Right. Those are supposed to be confidential, first and foremost. So anything you bring in confidence to any person within the faith, they are supposed to maintain that confidentiality. That's number one. But that whole point of relationship is what I brought up to this soldier this past week, where I said to him, and actually I think we're a good example, right? But I said to him, your parents have known you since you were born. You come to drill, you see us once a month. How well do you know me? Yeah, pretty well. Okay. You talk to me at drill. There's other people you interact with that you don't know at all. I'm like, what's my mama's name? I don't know.
You ain't know me at all.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And that's how J. Cole said it, right? He said, if you know my mama, you know me. But if you don't, well, then I'm sorry.
Exactly.
Because you're not one of my homies if you don't know her, right? So it's like, so if you talk to your parents every single day, then you know your parents. Now, if your dad was missing from your life, do you know your dad?
Yeah, right. So,
No.
A question I've had on that I've had to explain to the kids is like having faith, right? Because if I tell my son, hey, I'm going to pick you up at 3:30, you need to ride.
Yeah.
He knows I'm going to be there at 3:30.
Right.
God tells us, hey, you're going to get here right now. And we're like, okay. But that's faith. Just like our kids have faith in us that we're going to do something, we need to have that same faith in our heavenly Father.
Right.
That what he said he was going to do, he's going to do.
Yeah.
That's,
and the people who have the most faith are people who trusted God enough and let him show up time after time.
Yeah.
So the more God has shown up, that's the more in your life you allowed him to.
Right.
Right. So then you know that you can lean on him. But when you hold on to it, you're like, God, I don't know. Or, hey, I'm going to try to find my own way. Or, hey, I need to be in control. Like, I'm not giving you control. How can he show up?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that people don't realize when they're offended, they let it slip into bitterness. And then that bitterness hardens our heart.
Yeah.
And that's where we begin to turn. And now, well, God didn't, I thought it was going to go this way.
Right.
But you're not seeing is that God takes a bad thing and he's going to turn it into a positive thing.
That's
but
right.
you just haven't had that faith to wait, because our timing, of course, is not God's timing.
Yeah.
As humans, I want everything now.
Yeah.
I want $1 million business. I wanted it last week.
Man. Yeah. People don't realize that most businesses don't last 5 years, and the ones that do are still not doing the greatest financially,
Yeah.
But then, on top of that, the number one reason that people claim they don't believe in God is not actually disbelief in a higher power. It's the fact that they hold some sort of bitterness towards God, whether it was a loss that they had in their life, whether they tried to trust him with something and their prayer wasn't answered when they expected it to be or the way that they thought it would be. And so then they turn from God, even though they had an issue or a misunderstanding or a human misrepresented God and now distorted your whole view of him. And neither one of those things are on God. Like,
exactly.
Those are both on you, And even still, you're not going to know him if you never talk to him.
Right.
So
I think that would be the scariest thing. You get up to heaven, he's like, depart from me, for I never knew you.
Never knew you. Exactly. Ooh. Yeah. And so one of my favorite verses, and this is the verse that I shared with this soldier this past weekend, was James 1:27. Okay. And James 1 verse 27 says this: pure and undefiled religion before God the Father is this. Some translations say pure and genuine religion before God the Father is this: take care of the orphan and the widow in their affliction. Okay, orphan had no father, widow had no husband. In a time period where the law and everything was controlled by men, right, that orphan or widow had nobody to speak for them legally because they had no legal standing. So that takes away their ability to get their own food, water, shelter, takes away their financial safety. You just took away the bottom two, honestly, third step. We didn't even get there yet, I know. But you took away the three most essential ladders to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Take care of people who can't take care of themselves, is what that's saying.
Right.
So it's not a literal orphan or a literal widow every single time.
Yeah.
It could be any of the people around you who are unable to take care of themselves. That includes special needs or people with different mental health diagnoses. Those are included.
Yeah.
No matter who is present, even if they have a father present, I'm just clarifying that point. It doesn't matter. That's not specifically what it's saying. It's encompassing.
Yeah.
Take care of people who can't take care of themselves. And then the second part to that verse, and do not let the world corrupt you. Right? Don't allow the world to separate you from getting to know God. That's all religion is.
Yeah, and I think the Bible says that in a different way, in a different verse, telling us not to conform to the world.
Yeah, exactly. Do not be conformed to the image of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And you have to do that daily, right?
Yeah.
That means you have to talk to God daily and allow him to kind of reshape. And here's what I realized. As humans, we want to do the opposite of what God wants us to do.
Well, because it's comfortable. When I was toxic and I began to change, I would want to go back to my old ways.
Yeah.
I would want to revert when I begin to change.
Yeah.
Because it was hard. It's hard to accept that change.
Yeah.
Because I'm not used to it. And my toxicity at that point was comfortable because I was so used to it.
Yeah.
When we begin to leave the toxicity, it's like leaving from one home to a new home.
Yeah.
You get a new home, that's great.
Yeah.
But you still got to settle in that place. And you're
You
like,
do.
man, it doesn't feel like the old house.
Right.
It takes a few weeks, months to
does.
get used to the new house.
It really does. And figuring out where everything is.
Yeah, and that's the same with our spirit and our soul. When we transform and we're cleaning out our heart, we're coming to that new home. But it's uncomfortable. We got to settle in that new home first.
Whew, you talking right there. And we're going to do a whole episode on that because there's a book called The Body Keeps the Score, and that is a phenomenal book. And we're going to do a whole episode on that. We're going to talk about what your body does when it goes through trauma, the complications and problems it has trying to reset from trauma, and the fact that you will live in that state of being traumatized if you don't go through the healing process.
And that's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard for
really
me.
is.
For me, it took me, I felt, a decade to get through a lot of my trauma
Yeah.
from my tour.
I believe that.
And that was hard. There was a lot of changes that I didn't realize that I needed to make.
Yeah.
And because I didn't listen to God, the many opportunities, that God gave me and put right in front of my face, I denied. And
Yeah.
I got on that boat, I was going to go opposite way of Nineveh.
Yeah.
And and when I began to get on that boat, God cut everything off and put me in an isolation point to where I was by myself.
Yeah.
And he's like, man, if Jonah wasn't enough, if he didn't remind you that I put him in the belly of a whale because he didn't listen, let me show you.
Yeah.
And he will to us, If God's calling you and you're not listening, let me tell you what, he's going to make you listen. And if you didn't believe Jonah, that happened, if that story was real,
Yeah.
I will attest that he cut me off and he put me in the belly of a whale for a little bit until I got myself together.
Yeah.
Crazy. It was a crazy story. Sometime I'll go through it with you.
Yeah, you definitely should.
Yeah.
And people need to hear these raw stories. They need to see these moments where we can be vulnerable and understand that we have definitely gone through life. And we want to show you that no matter what you have gone through, you can heal. You can be healthy. You can come back from it. You're not stuck in certain cycles. No matter what your parents went through, no matter what your parents did to you, no matter what you've gone through, no matter what you've done to other people, once you reach a point where you want to be healed and you're willing to go through that process and you're willing to take those steps and not allow comfortability, not allow habits, not allow the people who are around you, not allow the situations that you've been in and that you're going through to hold you back and keep your mind captive, you can actually be set free. They're chains, right? Like you're literally stuck inside of repeating behaviors and cycles that you haven't unlearned or forced yourself to walk away from.
Ooh, and there's another big one that I don't think you mentioned yet, that a lot of America deals with, man, is your parents' trauma that you've experienced is not your trauma.
Yeah.
And there's so many people that are holding on to, well, I don't like this because this happened to them.
Right.
And I'm mad at them for that.
Yeah.
That's not your trauma.
It's not.
And, you need to ask for forgiveness, ask God to forgive them. And you forgive them because that bitterness that you're allowing to stay on your heart, that's somebody else's trauma, is going to ruin your life.
It really will.
And a lot of Americans go through that. They're mad at someone who hurt their mom or their dad, and allow toxicity in their life from somebody else's trauma.
Yeah.
And that's crazy.
And
man.
It just seeps in and it starts to eat at you and destroy you.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited for the future of this show. The things that we get the opportunity to talk about, the ways that we get to develop and shape people. It's really cool that we get to do that at work and here. Listen, we want to keep our episodes to a decent amount of time. So we're going to come back and we're going to talk about that next level to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which, by the way, comes before self-esteem. So a lot of people think after you get past physiological needs and you get past financial needs and safety needs, that next one is self-esteem. There's something that comes before it. We're going to talk about that in one of the upcoming episodes, and I hope that you are along for that ride with us.
This episode didn't challenge your thinking and resonate with you, you just weren't really listening. I'm Justin Kashmirchek, founder of the EGT Universe, and it's been a pleasure being here with you on this journey. If you know someone who's starting a business, rebuilding their brand, or just needs a serious digital upgrade, hit me up. I'm at Jump Cut King on Instagram, or head over to egtuniverse.com. That's egtuniverse.com, and drop me a line. Also, show some love to Carter and the crew behind Classic Man. Head over to classicmanpodcast.com for all the guest info, all the official links, and bonus content. Also, chip in. Buy me a cup of coffee. Let's be real. If we as men don't show up together, don't band together, we can't grow together. So check back here every week, same time, you're on your favorite podcast platform for the most up-to-date content. Don't get caught slipping. Stay connected. We'll see you right here, Classic Man Podcast, next time.